Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen wa salatu wa salam ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam tasliman kathira. Welcome to the fifth of 5 videos of this set A of navigating through Hans-Wehr Dictionary, where we're dealing with the theoretical aspects or components of using the dictionary. In our last lesson, we looked at number 1, how the dictionary is structured, and that the very first entry for any word is the verb. That is because, as the author mentioned, that his dictionary is arranged according to the 3-letter root of the verb or of the word. The next thing that we saw is that in this dictionary, they really do not use harakat or diacritical marks, and that instead they use the vowels of the alphabet or some of the vowels of the alphabet to represent the diacritical marks. That there is the A represents the fatha, the I represents the kesra, and the U represents the dhamma, and that each of those can also have an elongation mark on top, which means that that fatha is followed by an aleph, that the dhamma is followed by a waw, or that the kesra is followed by the ya. What we want to look now at are some of the other symbols that we can find in the dictionary. Okay, so we see the entry that we saw last time, which is for Sahara. Again, you see that it begins with the verb, and we said that we'll know that oftentimes because there will be Roman numerals mixed in there. We don't want to go into what those mean. You can also see those vowel signs as I've shown them to you previously. Okay, so again, you begin with the vowel entry, and we've already talked about what those vowel letters, the A's and the I's, represent, as well as the U's. Also, the author mentions that the comma, if you read the introduction, he mentions that these commas here, these indicate, if they're between words, the comma indicates that the definitions that he's given are all synonyms for one another. So here we see a comma, which means that time before daybreak, early morning, and dawn are all synonyms. They're not different meanings. They all mean the same thing, but they're different ways to express it, which is important for a person in translation, because oftentimes in English, there will be certain words that collocate or that go better with other words. And so having that variance really allows you to do a proper translation. Next, we'll notice that here we have a bit of a different symbol, which is the semicolon, which is marked by what looks like a period and on the top and a comma on the bottom. The author mentions that when you see this symbol, that this indicates that the definition has changed. So this is a completely different definition for the word. So if we start with this entry here, sihr, we begin with bewitchment, comma, beguilement, comma, enchantment, comma, and fascination. And then we have the semicolon. So that would mean that these first 4 entries are all different ways of saying the same thing. And so to kind of be amazed or enchanted or enchantment by something, those all mean the same thing. Then the definition changes to actual sorcery. So here we have sorcery, comma, witchcraft, comma, magic. And then we have a semicolon again, which means that sorcery, witchcraft, and magic are about the same. They're synonymous, even if their definitions aren't exactly the same. Then we have a semicolon. Then we have charm, for example, of a woman. So that shows us that sihr now has another meaning, which can be charm. Kind of got ahead of myself here with the button, so that's why this highlighted. So now we'll move on. We talked at the very first video, we mentioned this vertical line here, and we said that once we see this vertical line, the author has mentioned that the definitions have stopped. And at this stage, he's going to give us sample sentences, phrases, idiomatic expressions that utilize the word. And so here he gives us the term fanus sihri, which is a magic lantern. So that's how you would say magic lantern. Or it's also a slide projector. Again, we have a comma, which means it can have these two meanings. So a slide projector or a magic lantern are both called fanus sihri. Now remember, he's told you, he's explained to you, he's told you how to pronounce fanus here, because that's not from the root. But he doesn't give you the transliteration for sihri, because that's an entry word, or that's one of the derivatives. Now here he also gives us what we can use to add on. So here, if we wanted to change Sahara, so here we see the two H's. Those two H's would be indicative of a shadda, which is a doubling the consonant. So Sahara would be that pronunciation, Sahara, and then we have the A with the elongation mark for that fatha followed by the aleph. But then if we want to make the plural, he's telling us here that we would add another we would remove this ta marbuta, and then we would add a fatha to the ra, which would already be there. We would add an aleph to elongate, and then we would put an open ta, which would be saharat, because the ta marbuta is not pronounced at the end of a word, whereas the ta maftuha is pronounced. So that's why even though there's a ta marbuta here, you don't see a ta here after this a. It's not pronounced at the end of, or it's pronounced as a ha. It's not pronounced as a ta. So when you see that there's a t actually there, that shows that we're using the ta maftuha, which is the ta that we're more accustomed to. The last thing here, the number 2, the author mentions here that when we have the number 2, that the word is what we would call mamnu' min as-sarf. Mamnu' min as-sarf is a special case of ism that by its nature cannot take 2 dhammas. It cannot take tanween. It doesn't take 2 dhammas, 2 fathas, and it doesn't take a kesra. So you can only use a dhamma or a fatha, and you can only use one when you see this number 2. So you see it here, and you also see it here. So this would mean this would be sahahiru or sahahira. It would never be sahahirun. And this would be masahiru or masahira. It would never be masahirun or masahiran. Okay? So that concludes our presentation. Again, what we've taken in this lesson is we've just looked at some of the symbols that are connected to these definitions. Now, we've gone over a lot. If that was a lot for you to go over, you may want to watch the video again. That's why we've made these into videos, so that you can watch them as many times as you want. If you have any questions, anything you didn't understand, feel free to contact us at accessiblearabic@gmail.com or at imam@ummonline.org. Thank you for watching this presentation. In our next set of videos, which will be set B, we will be looking at more definitions and trying to apply some of what we've learned with other words. Inshallah.